Hello everybody, and thank you for joining our third episode of our Q&A series. Today I am joined by the expert panel featuring Mr. Trevor Stevenson, Mr. Andrew Dudley and Mr. Brian Jater. And we also have a very special guest, Mr. Tony Moxham from LaserCarve.
Hello.
Hi there all. So if you're not familiar with our formats, I should have introduced myself as well. My name's James, I'm from the marketing team. If you've never watched a Q&A before, we're doing a bit of a different format this week. We're going to find out a bit more about Tony first, so there'll be a little Q&A with him. But during that, if you have any questions about laser engraving, please leave them in the live comments and we will get to them following the interview with Tony. We do have some questions already primed to go, but if anything jogs your mind while you're listening to Tony talk, or if you just have a general question about applications or laser engraving, let us know and we'll get your question later on in the video. At the minute, I'm going to hand over to Brian, who's going to talk with Tony, and we're going to find out more about his business.
Thanks, James, and thanks, Tony, for joining us, and welcome to everybody watching. Great to have you, Tone. First time that we've brought somebody else onto our Q&A session, so thank you for agreeing, and lovely to see you.
Pleasure.
Let's if we could start by just finding out a bit more about LaserCarve. Obviously, I've been and met you and known you for some time now, but for the benefit of the viewers, tell us a bit more about what it is that you do.
Yeah, so I've left the Marines 6 years ago now. Sorry, 2 years ago now, but knew I wanted to start a business before I was going to leave. Had lots and lots of ideas, but yeah, we came up with an engraving idea purely because in the military we have lots and lots of leaving gifts, lots of presentations, and there was definitely a gap in the market for, there wasn't very many people doing it, and the people that I'd identified that were doing it, it just wasn't particularly good, and also the prices were so high as well. So yeah, with lots of conversations and market research, we decided we would go for it and invest in a laser, which we spent lots of time researching what type of laser that we were going to go for, or what brand, and it didn't take long to work out that Trotec was the Rolls Royce, well, in my opinion, of course, Rolls Royce of lasers, mainly for production time, the quality of the build. It's all Austrian parts, and more importantly, the service as well, the customer service. If there's ever a problem, I can pick up the phone to Washington, and yeah, there's always somebody there to get back to you within 1 or 2 hours, and they're really, really helpful. So yeah, so we decided we would go for it, and the initial plan for us was going to be military chests, which we still do, but actually we didn't sell and engrave as many of those as we thought. But well, it wasn't a gamble, but the fallout from not doing so many military chests is there were so many different other applications that we could do, which is why I then didn't mind going ahead and gambling on starting this new business, which I knew nothing about. My whole career, 26 years in the Marines, all been military, so I've never known how to run a business, certainly how to operate a laser, graphics, everything else that comes with it. So it's a huge learning curve for us at our end, but yeah, I've really enjoyed something new, and the great thing is the harder you work on your own business, you reap the benefits, and it's not going to somebody else. So yeah, 5-6 years later, we're still here and cracking on.
Still lasering away. James,
Yeah.
have you got Tony's website at hand? Let's have a look at some of the products that he's producing. So talk us through it, Tony, if you don't mind. I can see there's a lot of military crests because that is your bread and butter.
Yeah, so we obviously I was very lucky for starting this business because I had an audience there ready to go. With the military and knowing lots of people from being in there for so long. Now this website is predominantly military, but we do a lot of other bespoke stuff. Lots of weddings, birthdays, which we are contemplating starting another website, purely for that. But this one is mainly military, hence the layout of it, and hence all the military items on, or the items that have been had a military logo put on. Also, as well, something that if anybody else is considering doing this, what we're doing with the military, you have to have a license to use a copyright logo, and most military logos are copyright, so you would need to apply to the MOD, and they check all your work and make sure they're happy with their copyright logo going out to people.
Okay, that's interesting. I was going to ask you about artwork, because I can imagine the people sitting at home going, "Wow, there's some amazing logos there." Do they come to you in a usable format straight away, or does it require a lot of editing?
No, they are in a format, but it does require a little bit of editing. They're a real high quality image from all the MOD logos, very high quality. But as you guys will know, we obviously then need to change that to a line drawing, which isn't too hard, and we've got a routine how to do that now fairly quickly. But it's a great help, because the quality is a vector image straight away, and it's, you know, a very high quality as well, and drawn professionally. But for being able to use those images and being able to log on to the MOD portal to download those, you clearly have to be licensed to do that. And there is a license fee, you know, each year to do that. And the great thing is as well, for every logo that we use, military logo that's copyrighted, 10% of that purchase goes back into the MOD. So for example, if it's a global law, it'll go back to the Royal Marines Charitable Trust Fund, you know, Naval and Army, and so on and so on. So it's actually, for me, it's quite a nice feeling knowing that the work we're doing, it's, you know, the lads really like it, and 10% is going back to the chosen charity, which is something that's dear to my heart.
So talk us through it then, Tony. You're still in the military. You're still doing your thing and keeping us all safe. But you obviously you had an end game in sight, or you knew that you were going to be leaving at some point. What was your process from that point to start looking at what you wanted to do in the future? Because it's not the most obvious journey from the military to laser engraver. So what twigged the decision? You mentioned gifts and how expensive they were, but can you talk us through the process, how you went from where you were to where you are now?
Oh, I mean, it really fell into my lap. You know, I worked with a guy who used to sit opposite me, and he was leaving, and because it was just him and I in the office, I sorted out his leaving gift. And he mentioned about these chests, which, you know, there's only two places, or three now, including us, but only 3 companies in the world that make these, and both of the other 2 are in the States, and they were so expensive, and I quite enjoy my woodwork anyway. So I decided I'd make one, and that's why we bought the laser initially. And the other reason as well that I went into laser engraving is I didn't realize at the time how much I enjoyed, you know, all the graphics and the technical aspects, and I feel like I'm quite creative. I didn't know this at the time, but now I love it. But I knew what I didn't want to do, and that was to leave the military and go into the security sector, and, you know, going away. And if there was any type of business that I could do, you know, working from home, go away a lot. So if you can have a business that you can work from home and be with your family more, you know, that was perfect. And it was all a bit of a gamble, and, you know, I just sort of went for it, saw a bit of a light and went for it. And yeah, and you still have to chip away and work at it and work out, you know, get your roadmap in a straight line. And yeah, I'd say we're there now, and we know what we're doing ish. You guys are always on the end of the phone for any help, which is great. But yeah, so it really just fell into my lap. You know, it's not something that I ever aspired to do, but I was just lucky, and more importantly, I really enjoy it as well. Not just the engraving, but just of how to run a business, and, you know, setting it up, and yeah, it's been good. It's been a good process, a great learning process as well.
So did you look at any other equipment, any other types of equipment, or any other laser systems during the journey from one to another?
We did. We went to, our first port of call was Birmingham, and I think their company was called Graphitite.
Graphitite, yeah.
We had some demonstrations there, but as I said, we soon looking at other systems, and we were looking at all the Chinese systems as well, with the glass tubes. And then you and I ended up talking on the phone 5-6 years ago. Gave me a demo in your showroom in Bristol, which I assume is where you are now, and then that was it. Yeah, I realised very quickly. But I'd already done a bit of research on Trotec, and, you know, how great the machines were, how reliable they were as well. And then, you know, your sales pitch backed it up, and then here we are.
And what other equipment are you using, Tone? Because obviously you're making your boxes. You're not making them in completely out of the using the laser, are you? You're just doing the personalization with the laser. So you got other tools there to work with your woodworking skills, yeah?
Yeah. So we've got a workshop. Some of our products and woodwork we ship in, or we export. Some comes from India, some comes from China. Also, we wash all the boxes from China now with a wipe. And we don't burst the bubble bags that they come in because of the air. But yeah, the majority of it is wooden products that we make ourselves. So we've got a big workshop at the top with all the machinery, in those, which we've got. Some of it I had already. Some of it I built up over the last 5 years. With investing profit back in, and so yeah, we've got every saw you can think of: bandsaws, planers, chop saws. And that's the real part I love is creating a leaving gift from a rough sawn bit of timber.
And you've got plenty of timber down where you are as well. So for obviously most people won't know, but Tony lives in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by hundreds of trees. So a never-ending supply. Yeah,
absolutely.
So what does the future hold for LaserCarve? What's have you got plans for expansion, or you're happy with it the way you are?
No, we haven't really got plans for expansion, which sounds a bit nuts for most people that run a business or wanting to start a business. I'm very fortunate because of my career that I have a pension. So we could very, very easily upscale this business, go and get a bigger unit, employ more staff. But then all of a sudden, you've got all the work that goes with that, pensions, accounts, paying people, worrying if people aren't turning up and everything else. So we are a family business. So there's 4 of us that work here, and we're going to keep it that way. We don't want to get too busy. We've been lucky as well. We haven't really had to pay for much marketing. So over the last 5 years, we've grown slowly but organically, and I think that's given us a good depth in our business, rather than paying for all the marketing and getting out there straight away and then potentially not being able to fulfill any orders. I'm not saying we're still very, very busy, but I certainly wouldn't want to start paying for marketing and start putting out emails, because we've grown organically, the work's just coming in anyway, bit by bit. I suppose the more products we do, and we always leave our stamp on it, people see that, and a business card goes with each product. And yeah, over the last 5 years, we've got lots of products out there now with our name on them, and that's what's that's why we're in a position we are now, where we do get a lot of work each day without fishing for it.
Fantastic! What a great place to be as well. Guys, anybody else got any questions for Tony? No, clearly not.
No.
That's really interesting, Tony. And we really appreciate you coming on. And we might chuck some more questions at you as we go along, or there might be some from coming on the comments at some point as well. But really appreciate you taking the time out to spend a few minutes with us this afternoon.
Oh, not a problem at all. It's a pleasure.
Right, James, I know we've got a few questions that were asked on registration for this. Yes. So we're going to start firing those across, and we'll get on with answering those. And if anything else comes up for anybody watching, please just send us a comment, even just say hello and let us know where you're from.
No problem at all. So our first question came in last night via email, and it is: what is the optimum laser height from the lens to the workpieces, whatever the thickness may be? I have a Chinese blue and white laser, which is 40 watts.
Andy, you can take that one?
I'll give it a go. So realistically, with the lenses, they're all rated basically how we call them a 2-inch lens or 2.5-inch lens, and what that means is that's how far away from that lens is the focal point, so the focal point of the laser beam. So generally, when you're engraving, you want the laser beam to be in focus as best as possible. So a 2-inch lens, you'd be 2 inches, the material would be 2 inches under the lens effectively. With regards to cutting, What we tend to do is it depends on the laser power and things like that. But if you were, say, cutting a thicker bit of material, say like a 6 mil or 8 mil bit of acrylic or MDF, you might want to focus it slightly inside the material. This just gives it a little bit more ability to cut through, and it potentially gives it a straighter edge as well. So without getting into too much details, rough rule of thumb would be about 1/3 of the way through the material for a 2-inch lens. So if you were doing 6 mil, then maybe like 2 mil inside the material. Now, obviously, with the Trotec machines, that's fairly easy to do in the software. You just focus it on the surface and you say for the cut line -2 mil. But obviously, with your laser, it might be a manual process. But I think those are the rules of thumb we'd go with most of the time.
Yeah, I think as long as you know what lens you're using, even if there's no focus tool, you should be able to just use a ruler to set your height.
Absolutely. I was going to say, is that relevant as well for like engraving bottles, or would that be a different story? Obviously, if you're engraving something like that.
No, your workpiece will always need to be, if you're using a 2-inch lens, your workpiece always needs to be 2 inches below that lens, because that is your optimal focal point, and that's why it's called a 2-inch lens. Most machines will have either some sort of autofocus system, or there'll be a manual focus tool which hangs off the head and allows you to put it in the right place. I don't know about a blue and white laser, I'm afraid, but yeah, in terms of lenses, that's where it needs to be.
Excellent, guys. So the next question we've got is one I'm pretty sure you all hear a lot, and it's, I am researching buying a laser on forums. Nobody talks about Trotec. Why is this?
Maybe Tony can answer this to see, because he went through the process. Did you look at forums at all?
I did look at forums, and the forum I think I found Trotec on was Sawmill Creek. I think it's called. Yeah, and they which is an American forum, I believe, and an American website, and they are constantly mentioned in there, and lots of people use them and speak very highly of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's also various Facebook groups as well, and certainly Trotec machines are mentioned a lot on the Trotec Facebook groups. Oddly enough, we see some of the others which are dedicated to glass tube machines, which tend to be sort of hobbyist, aimed at the hobbyist market, where yes, we may not get much of a mention because we're not in the hobbyist. Not really the hobbyist machine, it's a production machine, so that could be the reason. If you want to get in touch, we can put you in touch with forums where we know that there's plenty of research from people that are owners or wannabe owners, so get in touch, drop us an email, sales@troteclaser.co.uk, and we can send you a link to some forums where we're credited plenty.
Excellent. I'm sure that's quite helpful for a lot of people. The next question, I think I can add a bit to this, but how long will a laser last? And I think you guys will probably all agree maintenance is probably quite a key thing here. Keeping your machine clean will obviously help it last a lot longer.
This is true. Come on, Trev.
In terms of machine with a laser, what you are generating as you're cutting and engraving is debris and fumes. So we want to try and keep the inside of the machine as clean as possible, which is why we use an extraction. And like anything, the cleaner you keep it, the more look after it, the longer the machine will last and you will have less problems with it. The Trotec machines have a lot of features like belting round bearings to help protect them anyway. But generally speaking, cleanliness is next to godliness. A good workman will always look after his tools. In terms of things like laser tubes, that's going to vary from manufacturer to manufacturer in terms of glass tubes, metal tubes, and ceramic tubes. The higher quality laser tubes will always have a longer life than the more disposable glass tubes, really.
Yeah, absolutely true. And in terms of the machine itself, How long it will last is kind of vague. We've got machines out there that we're still servicing that are 15, 16 years old, which are working absolutely perfectly. They're not going to be as quick or as powerful as a current machine, but they're still performing a function. So keep it clean. Look after the machine, try and keep it at a relatively ambient temperature, because that will help for longevity of laser source. But there's no reason why a laser machine can't be lasting for you for 15 years, no problem at all.
Do you think there's a difference as well if you're doing lots and lots of cutting with your business, or hardly any cutting and just engraving? Is that a difference, would you say, in the longevity of the machine?
It shouldn't make a difference with the ceramic tube. We don't expect to see that make any difference, because essentially it's either on or it's off while it's running. But I have heard that before with other types of tubes. We don't know, or we don't use glass tubes massively. We do have a few glass tubes in our business, but most of those are just used for cutting anyway.
Right.
So really, it's how long will a laser last? Depends on where you look after it. But there's no reason. Again, we can only speak for our own machines. But we've got machines that are very, very old out in the field, and they're still performing admirably.
My machine's 6 years old, and it was a demonstrator, as you know, Brian. I think it was probably a year old before that, so 7 years there, and it's going great. But we do look after our machine very well.
Yeah, it does. It looks still brand new.
Yeah.
Typically, how many hours a week would you say you use it, Tony?
That goes from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock every day, pretty much. That's bar the weekends.
Wow, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, decent heavy use.
Yeah,
but built for it.
But we very rarely cut. All of our stuff is mainly engraving, so which is why I asked that question. I wonder if there was a difference. Less power maybe lasts longer, but no.
Well, you'd still be running at 100% power, I guess, most of the time, Tony, wouldn't you? Because you're trying to get that depth into the wood.
Yes.
So it's still on at full power. It's just the motion control system's moving quicker rather than the head itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. We've got a question here, actually. Oops. That's quite, I think, will be good for you guys. So I want to branch out from just cutting MDF shapes, but I don't know how. Like the good pun there, branching in wood. So who wants to take this question?
Come on, dads.
Well, I suppose it depends on the first thing I'd look at is who you're doing the MDF shapes for. So, and is it that those types of customers are looking for, or buying other products? A bit of market research would be the first thing I would look at. Maybe if you've got regular customers or just maybe your next couple of customers, just maybe, picking up the phone or trying to drop them an email, depending on how you're doing business with them. Just to maybe ask them a few questions. Usually most people are fairly happy to do that. So if you're, it depends again who your customer base is, and then maybe they're buying other things. So they might be buying engraving from other places, or cutting acrylic instead of MDF. It's fairly easy to move on between the two. So the first thing I would probably suggest is a bit of that, but then also you can expand on that and say, okay, well, what else is there in the area that other people are doing? And there's always other people with certain ideas. So again, it just depends on really what your first thing I say is your customer base is the first port of call, because they're already buying from you. So they already know you produce a good quality product, and maybe there's something else that they'd want from you.
I wonder if this is I don't know how to branch out in terms of I don't know how to go to my customer base or go to the people out there, or whether I don't know how to cut anything other than MDF.
Okay.
I'm not sure which it is, or it might be both. Who knows?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it could be two ways, couldn't it? So I suppose, yeah, if it's, I don't know how to approach the market, asking your customers in the first point of call. Again, you're always welcome to drop Trotec an email, and we'll have a chat with you about it, and maybe give you a few pointers. It's one of those things, and you can always come in for a demonstration, because we've got, as you might see behind a few of us, there's lots of samples that we've got that are different materials. If it's a specific material or application that you want to learn how to do, again, if it's not a Trotec machine, we can help you so far, but realistically, you can kind of get ideas, and then obviously we've got a lot of materials that we sell, we produce and sell, so they might be something that's that you can use as well.
Yeah, I think the key is get in touch. I mean, your machine supplier should be able to help you, but if you're not getting any help there, get in touch with us. We can show you how to do these things on one of our machines. Obviously, you don't mention what machine you've got on the question, but we can certainly give you pointers on how we would approach these products using our machines. So we've got 6 showrooms dotted around the place. If you get in touch, then we'll put you onto the nearest showroom and come and see us. Come and have a look at the products that we've got and the things that we've made, because if nothing else, it'll be interesting for you, and we can give you advice on laser cutting in general, and it doesn't cost anything to come into one of our showrooms just to have a look.
I'll just add as well, I think we've got a lot of online resources as well. So some customers, in terms of our case studies, just started off doing woods, but then they found they could do other things, through like what Brian says, coming into the showroom, or just generally a bit of inspiration. So again, visit our website and you can see lots of bits and pieces just to give you a bit of inspiration and see where other customers have kind of gone from their initial ideas.
Yeah, and the YouTube channel, because there's plenty of it also on there as well.
Absolutely, got lots of good resources. The next
if you've got any questions coming in live, then put them. Feel free to put them on for us. Anybody watching? Sorry, James, I interrupted.
It's all right, Brian. No, I was going to say we're going to go on to the next question, which is, I imported my machine 2 years ago, and now my business is doing so well, I need something faster. How much faster is a Trotec?
What a question.
Yeah, it would. I guess it would depend on the machine you have. I'd guess from the idea of importing a machine, it might be one of the machines from the Far East. Usually they're the glass tube machines, but again, it might not be. So yeah, it could be, a lot faster. It just depends on what you're cutting. I mean, typically the tests that we do, we would sort of say that a speedy might be able to cut or engrave, say it'll do a job up to 10 times faster than the glass tube machine, based on the nature of its motion control system and the ceramic laser source. So you could see a huge difference in the the sort of production speed you can get. Again, I suppose it goes back to the whole thing of get in contact with us, and we'll be able to sort of specifically tell you. Again, we do samples all the time, so we do somebody's got a file, for example, you're cutting on your machine that you want to see how fast the Trotec would do it, you can send us the file, we'll cut it on the same material and tell you how long it takes, so you can get a very accurate assessment of how long that would take.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we'd need to know a bit more, but again, come to showrooms, send us a file, send us some of your material, and we'll do a direct comparison. We know that with most glass tube machines, you're probably running at 300 or 400 millimeters a second for engraving, and a Speedy 300, for example, runs at 3.5 meters a second with 5G acceleration. So at that point, it could be poles apart. But if you're really, really deep engraving something, then that'll have an effect on what the difference is, as well as power level of whatever tube you've got compared to whatever tube we run a test with. So again, get in touch and we'll run some trials for you.
Excellent, great advice, guys. And the next one is some more advice needed here on materials. I bought some Trolase from the web shop, but can't get it to engrave nicely. Any tips? I don't know. I think you guys hear that quite often, I suppose. So, yeah, who wants to take it?
I'll take that one, James. I mean, Trolase is a very delicate material. We're talking about a top layer of a couple of microns. So the idea being we want to just literally just take the surface off without achieving any real depth. So one of the first things that we'll always do is we'll talk to you with a Trotec machine about using an offset. And depending on who you talk to, I know Brian always talks about a 1.5 mil offset. One of my other colleagues, he'll talk about a 1.25 mil offset. And what that does is we're telling the machine to just drop the table slightly. So we're running it a little bit out of focus. And what that's doing is that's just making the beam width fractionally larger. And as then we ablate the material away, we're removing the coloured top layer and then exposing the black coloured layer underneath there. But what we're not doing is removing lots of material and getting lots of dust, etc. So again, if it's something you want us to have a look at, if you have got a Trotec machine, if you give us a call, we should be able to give you some settings, because we've got settings on our machines that are set up for them, but we can definitely point you in the right direction if you have got another brand of machine.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's definitely the 1.5 mil would be for the 2-inch lens. Yeah, definitely.
Have you ever used any Trolase, Tony?
No, sorry, I have once, but it's not something I use very much. I think I've still got some down here.
Great. I was going to say, guys, is that obviously there's different thicknesses of Trolase. Obviously, say 3.2 to 1.8. Is it the same as what Trev said? Still the same in principle across, or would you approach a thicker one with a bit more with a different approach?
No, you'd approach them all from an engraving perspective. You'd approach them all in exactly the same way, because what you're looking to achieve remains constant. The power settings for cutting right through will be different, but for engraving, yeah, it will be exactly the same regardless.
Perfect. We have one more question, unless anything more's come in on the nope. We have nothing on the live chat. So our final question for today is: what popular applications or trends? What are the popular applications or trends right now for laser users? So I guess Tony can probably interject his here, because he's saying obviously his area is getting a few more people in, that kind of thing. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I mean, it really depends how creative your mind is. There's so many different things you can use the Trotec laser or any laser machine for. For us, we've just gone down the presentation, personalized gifts, leaving gifts. But God, I could think of probably a list of 10 now, different things you could use if it didn't work for you. Whether it's just making key rings, whether it's just making house signs, just doing bottles of alcohol. It's endless. It really depends on the user, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, Trev, what's popular in the Northwest at the minute?
I think it's just personalisation in general, and there's just that many different items and goods that you can personalise, isn't there? Obviously, we've seen lots and lots of customers, and I don't know if Tony's seen this as well. But obviously, during lockdown, over Easter, etc., personalisation has gone through the roof. People haven't been able to visit loved ones. It's not been as easy to buy presents. You're not wanting to send something through kind of mail order. You're wanting to send something that means something, and personalisation does that. So we're seeing all manner of gifts and goods, and it's just the personalisation. But I think from the machine operator, the business's ideas, it's all about the creativity and catching somebody's imagination. Yeah,
I think I can add to that as well, Trey. I think my dad told me quite a few years ago, he said, if you can, he was very successful in business, but if you can attach emotion to something, then straight away, and which obviously personalization does instantly, there's an emotion to it, then straight away people will want that and potentially pay a premium for it as well, because it's one of a kind.
And currently as well, more and more people are shopping through smartphones. When you link emotion to a thumbprint, it's instantaneous. We're talking about you're putting something into a basket of goods, it's linked to your credit card. You're not even considering it. You're just doing it. And then next thing you know, it's in somebody's machine being ordered. So yeah, I think the more ideas, the more you can capture that emotion and that feeling at the time, and the quicker that you as a vendor can get them to put it in a basket and pay for it, that's the real trick.
And I'd add that the anybody dealing with hobby markets at the minute is very busy, because we're seeing a lot of people going out much less. Apart from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it seems like everybody's going out at the minute. But we've certainly seen it with things like model railway marketplace. We've seen it with people in the bakery sort of marketplace with cake toppers and that type of thing. These people are absolutely flat out because we're not going out and we're finding other things to do, and we're feeding our hobbies.
I know some of my customers have got 4-week lead times at this time of year. It's unprecedented. It's like the Christmas period.
Anything different in Ireland with you, Andy?
It's very much the same, to be honest with you. We have a lot of sort of christenings and communions and things like that, where they would have been, large groups to celebrate that kind of thing, and that's not able to happen at the moment. So so personalised gifts, the cake toppers, you said, have got a few customers that are like you say, producing them all day, every day, and haven't really got enough time in the day to do anything else. So that's been very sort of an increase in the market, and certainly everybody. I think there was somebody on the questions before was cutting wood, wooden shapes, and it's like that's got very few customers doing that, and they've been exceedingly busy over the last couple of months as well. So personalization, gifts, things to do, jigsaw puzzles, that type of stuff. That's been very, very popular, as well as industry. That's sort of picked back up now, I suppose, as well. Lots of sort of acrylic cutting for screens and things like that. It's been very very busy with that, and now you've got a lot of industry coming back, a lot of labeling and stuff like that. So there's a good variety, really.
You say on Ireland, had the Vinehall displays who were on Trotec Canada's video. Well, it's probably a couple of months back now, but obviously they totally changed track, didn't they? Went from events into gifts.
Yeah, well, the events, I think this is all over. The events industry has really sort of suffered, and it's probably the last one, it certainly is over here, to sort of come back, because obviously they're usually catering for events with large amount of people indoors. So those are the ones that are going to be the last ones to come back. So they've had to sort of change tact quite a bit in terms of delve into an online gift shop. Wooden products, sort of bike stands, that kind of stuff. So it's personalization, and maybe differentiating your business is definitely something that's happened a lot in the last couple of months.
Anybody else anything to add? Or
I think people are also willing to buy and pay for a quality product and pay a premium for that as well. It's not just all about gimmicky kind of disposable. I think people are looking at this kind of time. They're looking for something, keepsakes, quality products. Do you find that, Tony?
Absolutely. Everything we do will either have a date, a name, a number that identifies that person, if it's military, a service number. And the moment you've done that, for example, we could, a lot of companies, if you were going to ask for, if you were having a dinner and you wanted 100 glasses with a logo on and maybe the date of the dinner, the fee would be whatever that fee would be. But if you could suddenly say, give me the list of everybody's name at that dinner, and I'll add that name to each glass as well. And then all of a sudden, when that person comes home from the dinner and oh yes, looked at it as a glass and goes in the bottom drawer or something. But now, you know, if it's got somebody's name or something that's personalised to them, it turns it into something completely different.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, guys, if nobody has anything else to add, there are no questions in the live chat. So anybody have any other comments they'd like to make?
Other than to thank Tony for his time today, much appreciated. Beers on me next. Beers on me next time I see you.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Perfect. And thanks to the rest of you as well. Thanks for getting us organised, James.
Thank you, Brian. No problem.
And this will be going on to YouTube at some point in the next 48 hours for a recap if anybody wants to watch it.
Yes, it'll be available on YouTube, and obviously remember to stay up to date with all our new webinars, Q&As. Follow us on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and of course subscribe to YouTube, because you know it's always better when you get that pop-up saying that we're going live now.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Tony.
Take care.
No, Trevor, nice to meet you all.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.